Hi, I'm Jim Gibson from the Geoscience Research Institute, and I'm here at the Faith and Science Conference in St. George, Utah. And we are studying questions in the matter of faith and science. And I'd like to ask the question, why are there so many different kinds of animals? Did God create each one separately and place them where they are now? Did evolution produce them through long ages and adaptation? Or did God give them the ability to move out across the earth and occupy new habits and adapt to them? Well, let's take a look at some of the evidence. First of all, can animals change from the way they started? In other words, are animals fixed in their morphology, or are they adaptable? Are they flexible? Well, to answer a question like that, one good example that's familiar to everyone is to look at dogs. There are many different kinds of dogs. Some are small, some are big, some are black, some are white, some are brown, some are mixed colors. Some have short tails, some have long tails, some have big floppy ears, some of them have shorter ears, some of them have long hair, some of them have short hair. But they're all the same kind of animal. In fact, they can even interbreed. So that gives an example of a conclusion that we might draw, that animals have the capacity to change in minor ways. We can take that same idea out into nature and look at the dogs, the canids, that live out in the wild. When we do that, we see that there are wolves that are large, there are foxes, there are coyotes that are a little smaller. In different places, you have, for example, the coyote in North America, and an animal that looks fairly similar in size and shape, the jackal. There's a couple kinds in Africa, another one in Europe. There are also dogs in South America. There's the dogs in Southern Africa. There's dogs in India, different species. There's even a dog that has a face that looks a little bit like a raccoon that lives in the Far East, including Japan. Well, we could imagine that if the originally created dog were preserved on the ark in its pair and then released from the ark to spread out across the land, across the earth, they would eventually reach different habitats. And in one habitat, they might find that it was advantageous to have long legs, whereas in a different habitat, it might be advantageous to have short legs, and so on with the other variability that's found in these dogs. And over a few hundred years, perhaps, or 1,000 years, we would find locally adapted dogs, adapted to the different environments. And so over time, not very long, over hundreds of years perhaps, or even a couple of thousand years at most, we could easily have forms that dogs that are adapted to different localities. In order to do this, God must have given them some kind of ability in their genes. And we are understanding more and more about that. But the point I want to focus in on right now is that we do not need to assume that God created dholes in India or hunting dogs in Africa separately, but that God created the ancestral dog, perhaps a wolf, and gave it the tools it needs to adapt, to spread out, fill the earth, and adapt to the local conditions, and produce a variety of dogs. If that's true for dogs, and we believe it is, it's also true for cats, for cattle, deer, camels, horses, whatever kind of animal we're talking about. The originally created pair was gifted with a genetic system that would enable it to spread out into different habitats and adapt to each one separately.